Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, again, let me share my screen first. Okay, now I hope you see my screen, right? Okay, I think everybody can see my screen, right? Okay. Yes, you can. Great, great. Okay, so we can start, but before starting, I want to say something that I was really impressed with your creations. I checked today our Discord channel, and also some of you shared your creations, post them on Instagram. I was really impressed with your creations. I'm really happy with the results. And by the way, guys, who are not working on our Discord channel, please share your creations in the Share Your Creations text channel with your prompts, so also the other attendees can learn from your work. Okay, and after the session, this tutorial session, of course, again, we are going to make some evaluations on our challenge 4 works and creations, and then we'll have another last challenge. Okay, today we are going to talk about Stable Diffusion and ControlNet and some other platforms. We are going to learn about Stable Diffusion's parameters and settings. Because Stable Diffusion is a little bit different from Midjourney, that it's not about prompt writing, but more about adjusting these settings and parameters, and also ControlNet is like that. Of course, again, prompt craft is important, but settings and parameters are really much more important in that platforms. Okay, and also we are going to talk about some other platforms that you can use Stable Diffusion, like OpenArt AI or Dream Studio. And also there is, I think, a new platform called Lux AI, and it is specialized on architecture, creating images, architectural images. So also it's really a handy and an interesting tool. Also, I want to talk about a little bit. Also, I didn't use it before. I'm new user on it, but I want to show you. Okay, so let's start with Stable Diffusion kickoff. Okay, Stable Diffusion, differently from Midjourney, is an open source, and there are different ways to interact with Stable Diffusion. One of them is Dream Studio, which is the easiest way. You just go to Dream Studio, I'll show you, .ai, and here you just sign up with your mail address, and I think it gives you some free credits, so you can try Dream Studio. And also there is a platform called OpenArt AI. I newly discovered also that platform, and also on that platform it gives you some free credits, so also you can use Stable Diffusion or other models on that platform. And the third way, which is I prefer, and most of the users of Stable Diffusion prefer is Automatic 1111 Stable Diffusion Web UI. You should download Automatic 1111, and then you can run Stable Diffusion locally on your computer. I'm saying this is the best way. Why? Because on Dream Studio or OpenArt, you don't have access to all parameters and settings that Stable Diffusion has. So I think the best technique way to use Stable Diffusion is Automatic 1111, but there is a problem that this web user interface runs locally on your computer. It means that for generating images, it uses your computer's own GPU. So if you don't have a high-end, a powerful GPU, you cannot use on your computer. For example, I have a 2019 MacBook Pro. I don't know how, but somehow I achieved to install Automatic 1111 to my Mac, but it runs so slow. And also I configured some of my configuration on the computer, and I'm running it on my CPU, not my GPU, because my GPU is really bad. But still it's kind of slow. So if you don't have a good GPU, I think it's better to use Stable Diffusion on online platforms such as Dream Studio and OpenArt. And also, you can use the Stable Diffusion on Google Colab. Here is the link. Also, I think you have the link in the email that I have sent to you. And also you have the you have some YouTube videos how to install Stable Diffusion, because it's a little bit a confusing process, can be a confusing process, but in that videos that guy really shows clearly how to install it. Okay, so let me show you that the interface of Dream Studio and OpenArt. I think you can see my screen right now. Okay, this is the interface of Dream Studio AI. Here you can see these are one of my old creations, and I have no credit because I'm not paying to Dream Studio. But here simply on the left side, you had here the parameters. Here goes the prompt, and here goes the negative prompt. I'm going to explain about negative prompts later. And you can upload an image here, so you can use an image prompt. Here you have just a couple of settings, like here you can adjust the aspect ratio and the resolution of your image, but you cannot input any value that you want. You need to choose from that given aspect ratios, like 3:4 or 4:5, like that. Here there is a setting about image count, so you can say Stable Diffusion how many images it to generate. Like you can ask for 1 image, or you can ask for 10 images, maximum of 10 images for one prompt. Here you have the resolution, you can adjust it. Here you have the prompt strength. It means that if you are using an image, a reference image, here you can put your prompt strength if you want. And here are the generation steps. I'm going to explain about generation steps. It's important in Stable Diffusion. It means, again, remember the diffusion process Midjourney uses, also Stable Diffusion uses a diffusion process. So it's called Stable Diffusion. And this means when these generation steps are more, it can add more detail to that image. And there is a place for seed value. You have already know what seed means from Midjourney, but again, I will explain. And here you can choose the model like Stable Diffusion version 2.1 or Stable Diffusion version 2.1 768, like that. Okay, so there is only these parameters you have in Dream Studio, and then you hit generate and it gives you the images. Okay, I think you can try to sign up a Dream Studio and see how many free credits it gives you, if you haven't already, of course. And also there is a platform called OpenArt, OpenArt AI. I love this platform because you can also make training. Okay, but for training, I think they don't give any free credits. But for image creation, you will have free credits, I think. So let me check. For example, can we see how much credits I have? Let's check. Okay. Now I think we cannot see, but I'm kind of sure it gives you free credits. Okay, so 1,000. Yeah, it gives 1,000 free credits when you sign up first to OpenArt. So again, it's a little bit like Dream Studio, but there is a difference that you can also use ControlNet here in OpenArt, and also you can use some other models than Stable Diffusion. So for example, here you have, let's switch. No, sorry, it's not like that. It's not like here. Okay, so here you have again a box to put your prompt and negative prompt. If you want to use, you can use also negative prompts. If you want to use image to image generation, again, you can upload a photo here. And here also you have some ControlNet settings. If you're going to use ControlNet, again, you need to upload the photo also here. And then you have the generation configuration, like how many images you want, like 2, 3, 4, or 1. You here have the aspect ratio, CFG scale. CFG scale is something like stylization value in Midjourney, but works a little bit different. Again, here you have the generation steps, and you can increase until 100 and decrease to 10 minimum. And here you have some samplers like DPM solver and DDIM or Euler A. These samplers are samplers of Stable Diffusion. For example, in Automatic 11.11 Stable Diffusion Web UI, you have much more samplers that you can use. And here again, seed number here. And these are the settings and parameters you can play with in OpenArt AI. So again, you have some upscale solutions here. I don't know why it doesn't open now. Maybe it's because I didn't give any prompt and any output. When you click on your creations, you can see the prompt, the model you used, width and height, like style, CFG scale. You can see all the parameters you used for that creation. So here you can see This was an image that I created in Stable Diffusion, Automatic 1111, then out painted in Dolly, and then again run it in Stable Diffusion with ControlNet. So, okay, I think it must be here to switch. Yeah, it's right. Okay, here also you can choose your model. For example, this OpenArt creative model, you can switch it to OpenArt photorealistic or Stable Diffusion XL, or here I think they have the old versions like, yeah, Stable Diffusion 1.5 or Stable Diffusion 2.1. So this platform is really cool because it gives you the opportunity to use that different models. So also if you don't have Automatic 1111 on your computer, you can try to use OpenArt AI. Yeah, guys, these were some of the platforms that you can use Stable Diffusion, and I think also on not GitHub. Okay, I'll recall later, or maybe in Google Colab they have a demo version of ControlNet and Stable Diffusion. Yeah, okay, so maybe it's better to start how to run Stable Diffusion on your computer. As I'm using a Mac, I will use terminal. Okay, and here you can, I just write SD space Stable Diffusion Web UI. Hit enter and then write /web UI point sh, and then just hit enter and wait my computer to run Stable Diffusion Web UI. As you can see, this is my configuration that I'm using low RAM. Also, I'm skipping torch CUDA test and use CPU all. I'm not even using my GPU because my Mac has a really bad GPU. So yeah, now okay, it gave me an URL and said that it's running on local URL, and which is cool. Now I can, okay, here we go. Okay, now I can copy.
Can you show me one more time how to open?
Excuse me, Melis?
Did you just type down CD, Stable Diffusion, or?
No, all the time you need to do that. Let me show again if you like. Okay, just close the terminal and set terminate. And I think on Windows computer there is a command, something, I don't know the name, but there is something similar to terminal, I think. Okay, I just open my terminal and I here write CD Stable Diffusion Web UI. Okay, it's like that. You can take a screenshot if you want. Then hit enter, and this time write /webui.sh, and again hit enter. Okay, and wait my computer to run Automatic 1111. Here is my configuration with low RAM and using CPU. Maybe that is why usually I cannot generate I don't know, high-end images in Stable Diffusion. Now, okay, it says that running on local URL. Now, the thing I need to do is to copy that URL. Okay, I think I can close Dream Studio. I can close Open Art. I can close this and this. Okay, now I'm opening a new tab and just pasting that URL. This URL is always same, you know, it never changes, but every time when you want to use Stable Diffusion, you need to open the terminal window and write these texts. Okay, now it opened. Even if I don't paste this URL to my browser and open it, Stable Diffusion is running in the background. So that is why, for example, now my Mac is really slow. Let me check. Somebody asked something, I think, in chat. Is there any priority on using SD models? Oh, okay. I'll talk about that, but you know, I really suggest to try that all of them and check and see what they do. So okay, this is the interface of Automatic 1111. It looks a little bit different, right, from Midjourneys or other interfaces. Here you have text to image parts, image to image parts. You have some extras like upscaling the images. Here you have PNG info. That's all of the images generated in Midjourney. If you put them here, you can see all of the parameters and prompt you use. This is checkpoint merger. It's not for us. It's somewhere to merge models, and I really don't know anything about that. Here again, you have some training possibilities, but also I don't use that. And here in extensions, you need to also download ControlNet here to use ControlNet. Okay, so I have some ControlNet and LoRa model. These ones, for example, you can check for updates. And okay, there are some new commits. I can apply and restart UI. Now it will do. Okay, but it couldn't make anything. Doesn't matter. So here on that slide, you see exactly this web interface of Stable Diffusion Automatic 1111. Here you have a place that you can choose the Stable Diffusion checkpoint, means Stable Diffusion model. Again, it has some different versions like Midjourney. Now I think the latest released version is version 2.1, but it doesn't mean that it's better than the older versions. Most of the people still uses the version 1.5, so also I use it, but also of course you can try the other versions and see what they do. Now here you see that web interface, and we are on the section of text to image. So here you have the box, okay, to write and enter your prompt. In Stable Diffusion, your prompt can be maximum of 75 words. You cannot write longer prompts. This is something different from Midjourney. Okay, so these two are the main things. So you can hit generate when you select a checkpoint and here enter your text prompt, you can hit generate and it will generate you something, but with default settings and parameters. So if you want to change these default settings and parameters, all of them are here, as you can see, like sampling methods, sampling steps, width, height, CFG scale, this batch count or seed, or you can use some scripts. Here you see control net. You can because it's downloaded on my computer. So here you have all the parameters. But first, let's begin again with prompt writing, and then we can go on with that settings and parameters. Okay. Anatomy of a prompt. It's a little bit similar to Midjourney, but there is some differences I want to talk about. For example, here, no, let's start with that prompt and then talk about it. Architectural photography of a beautiful timber treehouse building facade designed by Antonio Gaudi and Thomas Hedderwick, parametric architecture, wall architectural elevation, ultra-realistic, hyper-realistic textures trending on ArcDaily, detailed and intricate, matte epic composition 8K. So again, here you have medium and style you need to choose. Like here in that example, it's architectural photography. You need to define your subjects. For example, mine is a timber treehouse building facade designed by Antonio Gaudi and Thomas Hedderwick, and some details like I want it to be a parametric architectural building and I want a wall architectural elevation. But here, you know, the main difference is about enhancer words. In Midjourney, I would never use something like beautiful or ultra realistic or hyper realistic textures or epic composition or 8K because they do nothing in Midjourney. Because Midjourney already gives me realistic, photorealistic, ultra-realistic images. But in Stable Diffusion, I advise you to use such enhancer words. And of course, there is the most important tip, I think, is it depends on the checkpoint you are using. So when you download a custom checkpoint, you know, a model, always check if there is any hint about how the model should be prompted in the description, because all that models, they can be trained differently. So it's important to understand how these models are trained. So another quick way to understand how to correctly use the model is to check some example prompts made by the creator of the checkpoint or by that community using that checkpoint. Yeah, this checkpoint was Stable Diffusion 1.5, and with exactly the same prompt. For example, here with Stable Diffusion 2.1, you have a completely different image. Of course, also in Stable Diffusion 1.5, I had lots of different outputs for that prompt, but more or less in that composition. But for example, in another checkpoint, the image, the content really changed. Yeah, this is one of the ugliest buildings, I think you can see on Earth. But it's so I don't know, different. Again, here you can see I used more or less similar enhancer words like hyper-realistic textures, like ultra-realistic, like detailed and intricate, mostly because Stable Diffusion needs that enhancer words. But now I use some negative prompts, like low resolution. Low res stands for low resolution, error, cropped, worst quality, low quality, JPEG artifacts, out of frame, watermark, and signature. So I didn't want them. And I brought them down to my negative prompts. And if you ask if this strategy always works, no, not always, because mostly even if I write cropped to negative prompt, it can give some cropped buildings to me. And also even I wrote down wall, something like wall architectural elevation. So you need to try and try again to make. Yeah, there is a tip. There is a website called promptomania.com. I didn't know about that website, but when I was preparing this workshop and this presentation for the workshop, I just found it accidentally. You can use that because here they have lots of, for example, these are, I think, different cameras. Okay, they have lots of tips on that web page, so you can go and check. I think also they have some tips for also Midjourney, not just Stable Diffusion. I have never used this website, but also I had a quick look, but I'll check more detailedly later. Okay, so what a negative prompt does, it's simply lets you input what you don't want Stable Diffusion to generate. And people found something like these general negative prompts work well, like low resolution, error, cropped, worse quality, low quality, out of frame, watermark, and signature. And also they found that, for example, for portraits, these words for negative prompts work well, like deformed, ugly, disfigured, text, extra limbs, face cut, and blah blah blah. There's lots of, for example, if you ever noticed that the thing that all these generative AI tools have some problems with making hands. There is always an extra finger or something like that. So, for example, look, they found that negative prompts for people portraits, extra fingers, to write extra fingers could be good. And here you can see the difference. Okay, it affects your prompt. So you can use negative prompts, but it's not always necessary, but you can try. And okay, also like in Midjourney, in Stable Diffusion, we have prompt weights, which means that we can stress a word in our prompt. Like when writing a prompt, each word has the same relevance, okay, inside that sentence. But if you'd like to emphasize the importance of a single part of your prompt, you can do this in Automatic 1111 by using brackets. Okay, and it goes like that. So remember, in Midjourney, we do it by putting double colon space and then a numeric value. Here again, we have a numeric value, but here we use brackets. Like if you want to increase attention to word by a factor of 1.1, you can just use that word in brackets. If you use this word in double brackets like that, you will increase attention to this word by a factor of 1.21. And this bracket, what kind of bracket is that? It's like squared. You can decrease attention. Or you can directly use numerical values like that. So again, using that word in brackets, you can write that word, put a column, and then you can give the numeric value here. Okay, so for example, using a word in double brackets and using a word in bracket and saying here 1.21 is the same thing. This is, think about it like a shortcut. Okay, these are the shortcuts and you can use it like that. This is an example. For example, a red cat wearing a green hat and glasses, masterpiece, detailed, painting in the style of Van Gogh. And here you see the result. And the other image is generated by the same prompt, but this now painting in the style of Van Gogh is emphasized 1.2 times. Okay, so you can here see in the background, it resembles the Starry Night of Van Gogh. Yeah, for example, these are more or less similar prompts. But for example, here, architectural photography of a beautiful treehouse building facade made from coral leaf, designed by Zaha Hadid, parametric architecture, and then goes enhancer words. And here, I don't know if you can see, but yeah, there is some textures on the facade, but they're exactly not resembles coral leaf, but if I use it like that with double column, it means that I'm emphasizing this word, making it more important by a factor of 1.2. Now I have this coral leaf textures on the facades. Yeah, settings and parameters. Now you have sampling methods. Here sampling steps. You have width and height. Means you can adjust your exact width and height. Here you can both adjust your aspect ratio and exact resolution you want. For example, saying this, it will generate a 1:1 square image which has 512 pixels. Here you have batch count and batch size, which means that how many images Stable Diffusion will generate from your prompt. Here you have CFG scale, and you have here setting or parameter of seed. If there is written -1, it means that it will use a random seed to generate that prompt. So again, it's works more or less same with Midjourney. So if you want to use a specific seed, you can find the seed of that image. That image, of course, should be generated in Stable Diffusion, and then you can put that seed here. Or if you want, you can just write a random seed here and see what happens. Yeah, so let's start with this settings and parameters, detailing what they do. First, remember, here we have sampling methods, one of the most important settings. For example, in Midjourney, we don't have such a sampling methods, right? We don't know what it uses, but here we have. Diffusion models work by denoising a starting noise canvas. This is where Stable Diffusion samplers come to work. In simple terms, these samplers are algorithms that take the generated image after each step and compare it to what the next prompt requested, and then add a few changes to the noise till it gradually reaches an image that matches the text description. So all these samplers, okay, they are in every step in that diffusion process, they are adding some changes. They are adding some layers to your prompt, and all of them are doing this differently. So here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you see 5 different sampling methods. These are the most used ones, so that is why I just put them. Honestly, for example, I don't use LMS or DPM2A. Also, usually I don't like to use DDIM because, yeah, it says that it's a balance between time and quality, but mostly I don't like the style that this sampler produces. Euler A is one of my favorites because it's a really fast sampler and it's creative. It gets good results at low steps, but I recommend you not to use sampling steps lower than 20. 20 is, I think, okay for trying. And also in Euler A, it has a property that generations at step count 15, for example, might look very different than step count 16, and then they might both look very different than step count 30. So this is why I call this sampler creative. I will show you some examples. And DDIM also it's a fast sampler. It can generate lots of images quickly, and also it's good for testing prompt ideas, maybe not just to use it in your final outputs, but just for testing. Remember, in Midjourney, we were always testing and editing our prompts. Again, of course, it's same in Stable Diffusion and all, I think, diffusion models. Yeah, it can have good results at low step counts. These LMS, Heon and DPM2A are a little bit slow samplers when you compare with the other first two ones. But of course, they have more quality. It means that they can produce images which are more detailed. Okay, so these are a little bit slow, especially DPM2 is really slow. Yeah, let's, for example, see an example of sampling method. For example, the prompt is a futuristic and parametric sculptural chair by Philip Stark, designed for IKEA, made from recycled materials. And for example, this is Euler A, this is Heon, and this is DDIM. So you can see the difference, right? They produce totally different outputs. And here you can see some different CFG scales. Also, I'm going to tell you about what is it, I think in a minute. Okay, so sampling method is really important because it affects the content of the output itself. Like in that example, for example, DDIM is really, I think, bad in lower CFG scales. Maybe here it tried to resemble the outputs of the Heon. Yes, and sampling steps. Here also we had sampling steps. Yeah, sampling steps is to tell Stable Diffusion how many times you want it to diffuse your image, something like that. So higher sampling steps will result in a higher processing time per image, of course. Generating images with a high number of sampling steps may also require higher processing power and VRAM. So it has a cost to use higher processing, higher sampling step values. And this VRAM is, of course, directly tied to the specs of the graphics card in the computer system. So, but also there is something, of course, the more sampling steps are, more detail added to an image, but at a certain threshold, the amount of detail added to an image peaks somewhere, we don't know where, and additional sampling steps past this value can actually degrade the quality of the image rather than improve it. Of course, we exactly don't know this point where the detail added to image peaks. We just can try. For example, you can see they keep all the parameters same, just change the steps. And here you can see that Stable Diffusion continues to add detail to the image up until about 80 sampling steps. Here you can see, right? Here the fur is more detailed, here a little bit more detail. But if you look carefully to steps 110, here again the level of details start to degrade, and you can clearly see it on steps 150. By the way, guys, it's dark again here, so I will turn on the lights. Yes, okay. So we need to find a reasonable, okay, and efficient sampling steps by trying. So never don't start with really high steps. You can also crash your Stable Diffusion. Yes, also there is an example like Stable Diffusion, as I told, creates an image by starting with a canvas full of noise and denoise it gradually to reach the final output. Now, increasing the amount of steps tells Stable Diffusion that it should take more steps to generate your final results and increase the amount of detail. Okay, so yeah, it's logical. It can seem logical to run at the maximum amount, but as I told you in the previous slides, it is not always a good idea. So here you can see they generate these images with same prompt and parameters, except they just change the sampler and steps here. So if you can see, for example, here, let's check DDIM sampler. Of course, there is difference between 10 steps and 20 steps and 30 steps, but there is not much difference between this 40, 50, and 100 steps. Can you see? These three images are same. So maybe here 40 steps are optimum. So you are wasting your time and you are wasting your GPU. Or for example, remember that one of my favorites was Hyun. You know why? Because it's really, you can see that consistent on all these steps, and even in 10 sampling steps, Hyun works really good, I think. Also DPM2 is like that, but I like Hyun much more. And here you can see the Euler A. This one is maybe the most creative one, because you can see in all of the steps the image changes. But in these ones, look, after 20 or 30 steps, it never changes. So these ones are more consistent when Euler A is a little bit crazy, let's say. So there are some tips to optimize sampling steps and reduce the processing time. When you use automatic 1111 locally on your computer, or if you ever used, you understand me, because it's really a painstaking process that just waiting in front of the computer, it takes a lot of time. So first tip is starting with low steps, then increase them. So, okay, you can use low step count like 20, which is default setting of the Stable Diffusion, just to see if your text prompt and seed will bring back an image composition close to what you want. Like in Midjourney, again, because we need to edit our prompts. So once you find a prompt and seed that you like, then you can increase the step count to start adding more detail in the image. You can do that. And also another advice, generate a smaller image and then upscale. So let's say you want your final image size to be 248 pixels. Don't do that on Stable Diffusion because it will take a really long time. So generate an image which the resolution is 510, and then you can upscale it by 4, upscale it by 2, it's up to you. And you can do it with third-party upscaler, but also you can do it within Stable Diffusion. Stable Diffusion has upscalers in it, so you can do it really easily. Of course, rather than achieving the look with a high step count, try to achieve it by adding keywords to your text prompt, like detail, like intricate, I don't know, such things. And reducing the CFG scale, it says. I'm not sure about that. So let's talk about CFG scale later. And maybe the last tip about optimizing steps can be trying different sampler methods, because all of them work better or worse at different sampling step counts. For example, DPM can return decent image results at low steps. For example, DDIM really needs at least 10 steps. So just you need to try. Yeah, here is an example of mine. So I really try to start with really low steps, like 8. So if you see, now you'll understand what I'm talking about. That's different samplers, different sampling methods work different in different sampling steps. Like some of them are better in lower steps, some of them are worse. Like for example, Euler A gave me nothing at 8 steps, where Hyun gave me a really detailed image. And as you look carefully, if you look carefully, you can notice that Hyun, it's not so much affected by steps. So at 8 steps and 50 steps, you can see more or less the composition is same also. The detail level looks quite same. So there is no point to run, for example, that prompt with Hyun sampler at 50 steps. So I just can use 15 steps. So this takes maybe 3 or 4 times longer than creating that one. So there was no point for Hyun. But for ALAR-A, you can see at 8 steps, there is nearly nothing, just like cloudy. I cannot see anything. Here again, I start to see something, but I cannot recognize what it is. There is a tree, and also I didn't ask for a tree in the prompt anyway. And also 25 step, I didn't like that image too because it's meaningless. But here now at step 50, I find something meaningful. Yeah, this is a ruined temple, really. Prompt was something like that. Ruins of a temple. It begins like that. And of course, there were some enhancers or something like that. So, okay, maybe it could be produce better results at higher steps like 80, because still it's a little bit foggy, a fuzzy image, but I think it's much more better than these lower steps. And again, let's check DDAM. This worked bad at 8 steps, but at 15 steps, it's quite okay, I think, because then on higher steps, it's added just some details, small details, not much big difference here. And also it's quite more or less the same for LMS. And you can also see Hyun DDI and LMS Keras produces more or less the same composition when ALAR-A and DPM2A generated some different compositions. Also, DPM2A didn't work well on that low steps. Also, on maybe it needed more higher steps like 80, 90. I don't know, maybe 100. But these are really too much steps if you don't have a super powerful computer. Yeah, width and height. You already know about width and height, of course. By default, Stable Diffusion produces images of 1:1 aspect ratio with 512 to 512 resolution pixels. And it's very easy to override these default settings. Remember here, sorry, maybe I can go back. Here you have width and height values. So you can directly write to that box, or you can adjust from it here. Yeah. And Stable Diffusion advise us to not go below 512 because it might result in lower quality images. And also it advises to not go over 512 in both directions because it will repeat image areas. So it says that the best way to create non-square images to use 512 in one dimension and a value larger than that in the other one. So if I want a 3 to 4 composition, just I calculate if 3 is for 512, how many pixels should be for 4? Like that. Okay, so just a basic calculation. So here you see, for example, the difference. Also, again, there goes the same thing like Midjourney. okay, this aspect ratio doesn't only have an impact on the frame of the image, but also in the content itself. So you can see this vertical frame gives me vertical buildings, right? When this square frame gave me the buildings that are more or less their width and height are same. By the way, also these are, I think, created in OpenAI, OpenArt AI, using Stable Diffusion checkpoints version 2.1. Yeah, here aspect ratios is really important in all of that models, because as you can see here, it really matters. For example, on that landscape photographs, you can clearly see how the effect changed that to in that frame, and in the portrait ones, I think this change is more dramatic. So, for example, this and this and this one looks so different because in portraits in vertical frames, it's hard to feel that frame. But in architecture, here you see examples. If we are dealing with high-rise buildings, these vertical, these portrait formats are very useful for us if you're using them. Just a tip for you. Yeah, and there were batch count and batch size. Remember, this is like a number of variations. For example, in Midjourney, we by default have 4, and we cannot change that. But here in Stable Diffusion, we can change it from 1 to maybe, I don't know, we will check, because I never use batch count more than 4 because it takes too much time. But also there is the option of batch size. I never use it. Why? Because batch size, while the batch count is the number of the batches of images to generate, batch size is the number of images generated in parallel, which means that if you ask for batch count of 4, it will generate 4 images, okay, one after other, but in batch size, it will generate in parallel. So batch count is multiplied by batch size, and you'll need a lot of VRAM to increase this parameter. So I don't play with batch size. It's always 1. If I want more than 1 generations, I play with batch count. And yeah, CFG scale. We talked about it already. Now we are going to talk about it more detailedly. Here, you have the CFG scale parameter. You can adjust it from here, or you can directly write a value in that box. What is CFG scale? CFG scale stands for Classifier Free Guidance Scale, and is a measure of how close you want the model to stick to your prompt when looking for a related image to show you. You know, these models are looking for related images in the background, diffuse it, and then give you an output. So this means it's not the same, but we can compare it with stylization value in Midjourney. But here, when in Midjourney, high stylization values start to lose the connection between your prompt, here in Stable Diffusion, higher CFG values mean that it will more stick to your prompt. Okay. So it's something like creativity versus prompt. Okay. So lower numbers here give the AI more freedom to be creative. Okay, so if the numbers are lower, Stable Diffusion has more freedom. It doesn't strictly stick your prompt, but higher numbers force it to stick more to the prompt. Okay, but there is an important thing. Also, you can try and find it by yourself. Usually going lower than 5 is generally not recommended, as the images might start to look more like AI hallucinations. Okay, so going lower and lower will produce some images too much AI looking, and going above 15 might start to give images with ugly artifacts. You can try it yourself and let's check if it's something like that. But the sweet spot is between somewhere 7 and 13, I think. So here you can see an example and a squirrel wearing a bucket hat Pixar. This is the prompt. And I took it from somewhere, but I didn't write the URL address here. I'm sorry. So, okay, look at that CFG3 scale, a really low scale. And yeah, you can see there is really, it looks like a hallucination, a fuzzy, a blurred output. And CFG5 a little bit better, but here, for example, with that last two samplers, there are some problems with the eyes of the squirrel. Yeah, and in that scale 7, it all looks okay. And going on with 10 or more, especially in some samplers, starts to make, I think, it confuses what to do. And you can see here, for example, these outputs are nothing to do with a Pixar squirrel, something like that. So the sweet spot is somewhere between 7 and 13. So you can try and check it by yourself. Yeah, again, this is our ugly building. But in the prompt, it says architectural photography of a beautiful organic building designed by Thomas Barcelo, Vadim Kashin, and Iris van Herpen, parametric architecture, wall architectural elevation, and there goes the, again, enhancer words. Here you can see that I used 20 sampler steps, and sampler was Euler A. Then I tried with different CFG scales. As you can see, in that CFG scale of 7 and 13, they're quite different. Here you can see that building, that image looks like the diffusion process is not done. Like still it's diffusing and generating the image, but it's not. It was finished. So for example, a higher scale gave a more finished, a more realistic look. Yeah, and the seed. You already know the seed from Midjourney. This is a specific region in the latent space of the stable diffusion model. So don't forget that. This seed works for images that only created in that model. So also in Midjourney, it's like that. Also in stable diffusion, it's like that. Or also in, I don't know what other models are, maybe LoRa. So you can think of it as coordinates that I mentioned yesterday. So Stable Diffusion takes two primary inputs and translates these into a fixed point in its model's latent space. One of them is seed integer, and the other of them is text prompt. Of course, the parameters also. So the same seed and the same prompt given to the same version of Stable Diffusion will output the same image every time. So this relationship is fixed. Seed plus prompt gives the image. So if you use the same seed and same prompt in every time, it will give you the same image. This is the only way to make a diffusion model to give you the same image. There is no other way. So I tried it with different CFG scales. So you can see there are some minor changes because I use different CFG scales. So also the parameters are also important here. But these changes are really minimalistic, but there are some changes. So maybe we can add here a plus and parameters to find the exact same image. Where we can use seeds, for example, this is a example I took from OpenArt AI. For example, you can control specific features of a character. In this example, they changed the emotion. For example, they generate a portrait of a woman, and then they make this woman to smile, to cry, eyes closed, blah, blah, blah. So it works, as you can see. But of course, the smaller the change, the more likely it will work. If you make really dramatical changes, I'm not sure. It could fail, of course. You can also change style with using seed parameters. For example, here, they use the same prompt, but just adding different style words like by Van Gogh, by Frida Kahlo, or Pixar render, blah, blah, blah. So you can use seed for changing style, and you can change mediums. Yeah, and also there is an important property that I want to mention, and it's XYZ plot. Okay, let me show my Stable Diffusion interface. Here, here it's written script. So here you can choose XYZ plots. Okay, and also now, after seeing all the parameters of Stable Diffusion, because this is the last one, we can make an example here. I'm going to go with really lower sampling steps because it takes too much time, especially if we use XYZ plot. It will take lots of time, but I'll try to keep it simple. So let's try a prompt. Maybe, for example, let's try one of your prompts. Okay, maybe let's try this one as we see, but these are some weights. These are some stylization values. Maybe we can look for a simpler one. Maybe we can use that without that values. I don't know. Anyway, here goes the prompt. Of course, I'm a little bit adjusted prompt according to Stable Diffusion. Architectural photography. Clothes shop, maybe we can sell. Dior retail shop. Parametric architecture. Facade made of colorful string, wool, and glass in Italy. I don't know this. If stable diffusion works well, this, for example, architecture photographers. We can try later. Yeah, let's say hyper realistic, ultra detailed and intricate. Let's say wall view. Let's say trending on sign board and scene. Let's say for negative prompt, we don't want low resolution, bad quality, cropped or out of frame, or any watermark. You know, sometimes that models can produce images with watermarks because they use the images from the internet, and some of them, if they have watermarks, of course, your image also would have some watermarks. Okay. Low quality. Okay, now here I can choose my sampler methods. As you can see, there are lots of ones. Let's start with no, I was about to tell about XYZ. Okay, let's try XYZ plot later. Now just try a prompt with let's say Euler array, because it's really fast. Let's say it's 20 sampling steps. By the way, you can have maximum of 150, and believe me, it's too much, too much. So let's start with 20. Okay, so let's start with batch count 2. Reputation of retail, yeah. Okay, also intricate. Okay, now these sampling steps. For example, let's say that we want a horizontal formats like that. And okay, seed is random. Now we are not using control nets. Okay, what else I need to choose? Nothing. Okay, I have my prompt. I have negative prompt. I choose my sampling methods. I decide my sampling steps. These are not something for us. This is a tiling option here, and some restore faces for if you are generating portraits, human portraits. I have width, height. Okay, CFG scale. Let's do it, for example, 11. I have batch count of 2. Now, okay, I can hit generate. Okay, I hit it. And now, if I just open my terminal window, by the way, don't close your terminal window when you are working on Stable Diffusion Web UI, because you'll see all things here. Okay, now total progress. It even didn't start yet. Okay. It gave me an error. Unexpected error. Processing could not begin. You may need to refresh the tab or restart the service, it says. So, okay, now I can terminate. Let me copy paste this. I don't want to write them again. This was our prompt, and this was our negative prompt. Also, let's close that, open the terminal again, and let's write cd stable diffusion web UI, enter web UI SH. Yeah. Yeah, here's my local URL. I'm copying and pasting again. Yep. Yeah, it works really slow because now Stable Diffusion is working in the background of my computer. And also I am about to be out of battery. Anyway, I think we are about to finish the Stable Diffusion part, then we can give 10 minutes break. I know, guys, there's too much information in a short time, but I need to do that. I want to tell you all that things about that models. Sorry. Okay, now where are our prompts? Here, let's copy and paste it. By the way, don't expect too much from Stable Diffusion because as I told you in the first day, Midjourney is so successful at artistics, right? In aesthetics, and other models, they don't have that hidden layers. Nobody knows how Midjourney, what Midjourney uses in that hidden layers, but everybody knows what Stable Diffusion uses because it's open source, and most of that platforms on web, they use Stable Diffusion models. It's an open source. Anyway, let's do the same. Euler A, bit, height, batch count. Maybe just take one to see, just to see the effects. Let's do it 11. Here you can choose the variation strength, for example, or variation seed when you are making batch count. Remember, also we have a similar feature in Midjourney, but I'm not going to choose it now. I will hit generate. And then now I will open my terminate window. Never close your terminate window. What was it called in Windows? This thing when you are giving commands to your computer. Does anybody know? I think you should know if you're using computers. I couldn't remember.
Command prompt, I think.
Excuse me?
Command prompt.
Yeah, command. Yeah, okay. I think I haven't used Windows PC at least for maybe 15 years. So yeah, but I recall now. Okay, so look, it's such a slow process. It just says that 0%. Okay, now we're just going to leave it in background. Okay, and then we'll check what happens. I hope my computer doesn't explode now during the presentation, and we can go with our presentations. Where were we? Yeah. Okay. XYZ plot. XYZ plot. Now, okay, what XYZ plot does is really simple. After Stable Diffusion finish that job, I will show you. You for every direction like X, what happens? Guys, I think my Mac is out of battery, so just 1 second and I will plug it in. Yeah, guys, sorry for that. Okay, so for every direction, for X, for Y, and for Z, for example, let's say for X, I can change different CFG scale values. For Y, I can see different seed values. For example, for Z, I can put some different sampler methods, or I don't know, seed values, all of the parameters you can find. And it means that it generates you these combinations in one grid. And that's really cool. Instead of, for example, trying these prompt with seed 5, with Euler sampler, and with CFG scale 7, then with Euler seed 5 and CFG scale 10, blah blah blah. I just can do it in one prompt. But of course, this process takes so much time because, for example, in this, it is creating 9 images. Okay, but I think it's a really handy property to see that effects of seeds, scales, samplers, sampling steps, I don't know, much more parameters. So I usually use that script, XYZ plot. And also stable diffusion, that I didn't mention something. Stable diffusion automatically saves the images you generated and also saves these grids. This is a grid, for example, because it's XYZ plot. Also saves these grids separately, again, automatically in a folder. Now I'll show you where you can find that folder. Let me stop sharing my screen because now my computer is going crazy. I just need to quit from here. Okay. By the way, let me share my screen again to show you the process that's in stable diffusion. Can everybody see my screen? Yes, okay, great. Here now, in stable diffusion, you see that diffusion process, like there is a denoising process. Here you can see the progress and estimating time remaining, it's 24 minutes. It's really, really slow when compared to Midjourney. It's because this is open source. We are not paying for anything and we are using our own computer's GPU, while in Midjourney we are paying for some GPU time. Okay, so we are using their GPUs. Here we are using just ours. If we want it to be quick, as I say, we can use stable diffusion on such online platforms, but I don't like because you don't have so much parameter there. So okay, so Also on terminal window, we can see, okay, on terminal window, it says 30%, and here it says 25%. It doesn't matter. It's something like that, we know. I think we are done with stable diffusion. And we'll start, no, we are not. We are going to talk about image to image. Okay, and then we are going to learn about control net. The last thing I want to say before we give a break, because I think all we need a break. I'm talking about more than 1.5 hours. I need a 5 or 10 minutes break, but last thing before the break. Yeah, I told you that, but also I wanted to show you that here in PNG info, if you put your image you generated in stable diffusion, here you can see all the parameters. Remember that ugly building, but this is different because this is an image to image prompt. So I used that building with some parameters. Here you can see the prompt here. Sorry. I think sometimes I'm clicking on the screen, so that's why happening. So you can here see negative prompt steps 50, sampler Euler A, CFG scale 13, see this size, this model is 1.5 pruned, denoising strength is okay, we'll talk about denoising strength. It's something some parameter about image to image. And also here, you can see that I used control net because it also says me the control net preprocessor and the parameters and settings of control net. Okay, so this PNG info is really handy. So you can see all of your parameters here. And last thing before the break. Maybe I can show you where it saves your generations. It's there. You'll go to your user folder. I don't know if it's the same in Windows, but in Mac it's like that. Then the stable diffusion web UI is all the documents are here. So in it, you need to put the models here, for example, okay? You'll download the models from internet, also control net models are here. Anyway, here are some, here is a place like outputs. Okay, now in that outputs, you have text to image, images, text to image, grids, text to image, image to image, images, image to image, grids, and extras images. For example, these extras are probably my upscaled. Yeah, these are my upscaled images. Okay, so it automatically saves here, so you don't need to save manually. Okay, for example, Midjourney doesn't do that. They're all on the internet, but you can find them on internet. So let me check what I didn't mention about. Yeah, this was text to image. Yeah, and now we have image to image. And after image to image, we'll have we will have information about control net. I think now we can take maybe 10 minutes break, guys. I think it's okay for everybody. If you like, after the break, we can make a question and answer session before we go go on with control net and image to image, because image to image and control net are linked. I want to talk about them together. So we can make a short question and answer session after the break, and then we can go with control net, guys. Okay. So see you in 10 minutes. Okay, I think 10 minutes passed. So let me share my screen again. By the way, I check our Discord channel and there were so great jobs that I really can't wait to finish the tutorial session and start to talk about your jobs. Anyway, if you have any questions, please ask about Stable Diffusion. You can ask. By the way, our generation finished. Let me show you the results. Share my screen. Yes. Where it is. Here it is. Yeah. Here you can see the result. Let's make it bigger. So you maybe remember the Midjourney outputs. And this output is quite different from Midjourney. And you know, I really like the result. It doesn't look so photorealistic like in Midjourney, but I like the color and composition and the shape it generated. Okay, so you can take this as a base image, for example, then try to blend it with something else in Midjourney, or you can try to take it again as a base image and use it as a reference image in ControlNet and create something else. So there are lots of ways. So you know your final assignment will be about that mixing that different tools, mixing media, trying to find some ways, different ways to expand and refine your architectural concepts. And I think that this is the most, I don't know, I really like that part of the job. So okay, let me check the questions. Hassan has 2 questions. First, at which time we can use Stable Diffusion instead of Midjourney? Yeah, I think it's a really, how can I say, personal. It's up to a personal decision. So for me, it is like, for example, when I try to create something curvilinear, some organic shapes or some biomorphic buildings, I use Midjourney a lot, and maybe it's because I saw lots of similar forms in Midjourney. Sometimes I'm bored of it, and for form creation, I use Stable Diffusion. Sometimes I prefer it, you know, and also I use Stable Diffusion for using ControlNet, right? Because you know, in ControlNet, you are completely in control of your image. So, for example, if I have this image, but I want this, for example, pink structure to be blue. It's just an example. Or I want its structure to be made of bricks. I just use Stable Diffusion because I can use ControlNet. I will show you ControlNet. But for concept creation, of course, Midjourney is better. But again, it's too personal, so it's up to you. Midjourney has some advantages, but also some disadvantages. Like, for example, in Midjourney, you don't have so much control like in ControlNet. But in ControlNet and Stable Diffusion, you don't have that aesthetic layers, that the artistic aspect of Midjourney. You don't have that. I used to open art to use Stable Diffusion. Will it be better while using installed? No, the best way to use Stable Diffusion, if you want to unlock all the features, I say, is the best way to use automatic 1111. Okay, because you have all the parameters that you can unlock. But of course, we all unfortunately don't have powerful computers. So that is why if you don't have a powerful GPU, I recommend you to use on platforms such as Dream Studio or OpenArt. Okay. Is there any workflow to merge these tools? Yeah, of course, there are lots of workflows. I will show you, for example, a couple of ways how I'm merging this. Can we convert the image of raw models to image of rendered models in Stable Diffusion? Yasemen, yes, you can. Exactly. This is the point of Stable Diffusion. But of course, not by only using Stable Diffusion, using ControlNet in Stable Diffusion. The only way to use ControlNet, it's an extension to Stable Diffusion. Okay, so if you have the ControlNet extension in Stable Diffusion, you can do that. You can take raw models and you can render them. So Stable Diffusion with the extension of ControlNet is exactly a rendering tool. So okay, but without ControlNet, for example, you can use it also like a dreaming tool, okay, like Midjourney. So I think dreaming, designing a concept and rendering are two different things. But of course, rendering is also important. I will show about that, Yasemen, also. Will this subject be covered in this workshop? Yep, sure. I'll show you in ControlNet. Of course, we have a limited time, so maybe we cannot do lots of examples, but I will briefly also introduce that. And also, I want to introduce you today a tool, a platform called Lux AI. As I told you, it's an AI tool especially made for architectural purposes. And also it can be used as a rendering tool. And it is, I think, really, really efficient. Also, that platform also uses ControlNet and some of the samplers of the Stable Diffusion, because you know Stable Diffusion is an open source, so most of the platforms use Stable Diffusion. By the way, I'm surprised by that result. I love it. It's maybe a little bit sketchy, but it looks dreamy. Of course, it looks too AI, too blurry. But for example, I'm curious. Let's try this same prompt with another sampler, Heal. And okay, let's just change the sampler, keep the CFG scale, everything same, and let's hit generate again. So let's see what will happen. Again, let's check the progress from terminal window. Progress didn't start yet. It doesn't seem so slow tonight, but it was because we use a relatively low sampling steps, like 20, and also Euler A sampler is a quite fast sampler. For example, Hyun is not that fast, so I think this time progress can take a longer time. We'll see. So now, okay, the progress started, so You can see here that random noise, guys. It's just a random noise like television static. So you can see that gradually, step by step, that it's denoising it. Yeah, it will sure take longer time because now we are using Heon sampler. Yeah, so let's leave it in the background and go on with the presentation. Yeah, remember, we also had an image to image section near the text to image section. And here we have some additional parameters, which are denoising strength. So one additional parameter we have. And also, of course, we have resize mode, like just resize, crop and resize until just resize, latent upscale. And if I'm using image to image generation, I always use the same aspect ratio with the reference image and my output image. And also I recommend you to do so. Okay. It's really better. And then again, you can choose your sampling methods, sampling steps, your width and height, batch count, batch size, CFG scale. All of the parameters are same, but just you have an additional parameter called denoising strength. Okay. And it accepts values from 0 to 1. Think of 1 as 100%. And I'll explain also denoising strength here. A denoising strength value of 0 will add 0 noise, which means that you are saying to Stable Diffusion, don't add any strength. Just use my input. And there is, of course, no point to do that because 0 denoising step will do nothing and your output will look exactly like your input, like that, okay? But the highest strength value of 1 will completely replace your input with noise. So again, I think there is no point to using a denoising strength value of 1 like that, okay? Nothing happens. So if you want something to resemble your reference image, but different from it, denoising strengths of, for example, between 50% and 75% is, I think, quite okay. This denoising value of 0.75 is the default value of Stable Diffusion. So here's an example of, remember that this was the prompt was a treehouse building designed by Thomas Hedderbeek and Antonio Gaudi. Now I just only changed my prompt. Instead of treehouse building facade, I wrote concrete building facade, and instead of other architects, I wrote Zaha Hadid and didn't change anything. I used 35 sampler steps and Euler A as sampler and a CFG scale of 7, denoising strength of 0.75. This is the random seed. I didn't use any seed. So now, okay, from this, Stable Diffusion created this. So you can see that the composition of the image and the mass of the building is they are very similar, but the facade, the windows, the details, they're completely different. And there was also a good surprise that even if I wrote not cropped to negative prompt, this building was cropped, but now it's not cropped, and I'm happy with that not cropped result. Yes. This time I wanted the facade made from coral leaf. And I want a beautiful tree house building. Now I again add tree house. I use again the same steps, the same sampler, the same CFG scale, but now I want to denoising strength to be higher, like 1. So okay, now you can see that this new output is quite different. Also, the mass of the building changed, right? Because I use the denoising strength of 1. I usually use the default denoising strength, which is 0.75. But in ControlNet, it doesn't affect. So I usually use Stable Diffusion from ControlNet. Again, I tried the same thing to see what it will do with denoising strength of 1. And again, you can see a completely different results. The mass of the building again is different from the reference image. Yeah, I think we are done with Stable Diffusion. And now we will go on with ControlNet 1.1. Okay, so image to image prompts, image settings, ControlNet image and settings. I didn't remember why I write this. Anyway, okay, then we'll see. Now, when you open the ControlNet tab on Stable Diffusion, let me again show you. You know, Stable Diffusion looks a little bit with too much parameters. It can look confusing, but after using it a couple of times, you'll understand some parameters better. Okay. Also I can use ControlNet with text to image, but it doesn't have any points, I think. So okay, image to image. I have a box to write my prompt. I have a box to write my negative prompt. Here I drop my reference image, okay, here. And then if I hit generate, and also here I select my settings and parameters, I hit generate and I can use image to image. But if I click on that small black triangle like that, ControlNet settings are open. And also I need to upload my reference, the same reference image here, which I uploaded to image to image section. Okay, again, you need to upload it here. Also, we can make a demonstration, but first we need Stable Diffusion to finish its generation. It's 40%. And now here I have another group of parameters and settings. Yeah, I think there's a question asked whether Stable Diffusion can generate models for 3D printing. No, Stable Diffusion only generates 2-dimensional images Also, Midjourney is like that. There is a program called, I will check it later, that it can it's a text to point cloud 3D generation. You can write a text prompt and it can generate a point cloud, so a 3D model for you, but it's not working very good yet. But I think in the future we had such tools like text to 3D model generations. Yeah. So we were here, I think. Yes, it's loading. My computer now is really slow because of Stable Diffusion that it's running in the background. Yeah, okay. So when you click on that small black triangle, here you see that settings. So you need to upload your reference image here, okay? And then please be sure that you click on that allow preview, pixel perfect, low RAM, and enable. For example, if you don't click on enable, it will do nothing. The control net will not work. Okay, so you need to enable. Use low VRAM because it's always better. Pixel perfect means that it uses the same aspect ratio, same pixels for this. And allow preview means that near that image, I can see pre-processor preview, and it can be really handy because, you know, for example, here I use line art. Okay, and when you click that small explosion button here, you can see the preview here. So it can be really handy. Now, yes, after checking all of these, now you have the processor. You know, it's like sampler. Here you have the control type. Do you want a canny, depth mapped, or normal map, or open pose? For example, open pose used for when you want to replicate a pose. Okay, and for example, a walking two-person just analyzes this pose and recreates it. But for example, in this example, I use line art. So line art does this. Okay, it can understand the edges, it can understand the surfaces, it can understand also the depth, but also we have depth map. It works only with depth. I will show you. So here I choose my control type. So it means which preprocessor I'll use and which model it use. But after choosing this, you don't have to play with these parameters. But for example, for depth, there are different preprocessors using depth map, like depth Midas or other depth preprocessors. You have here control weight, like I think it accepts values between 0 and 2 or 1. We'll check. But also there is a cool setting here, like starting control step and ending control step. I like it. It means that you are saying control net in which point it should take the control and stop the control. So if I begin with control step, start control step 0 and end control step 1, from the beginning to the end, it will follow my input image. But if I say, for example, ending control step maybe 0.65, it will do the job as sticking my base reference image until the 65% of the job is finished, and then it will stop to stick my base image, and it will just go on with the prompt. Okay, and also here you have a control mode like balanced, or my prompt is more important, or control net is more important. I recommend you to use balanced as a new user, and then you can try to use this my prompt is more important or control net is more important. Let me check. Can we create short videos using stable diffusion? You can create videos by using stable diffusion, but not with that automatic 1111 web UI. You can create videos in deforum, stable diffusion deforum, which you can run on Google Colab. I can briefly show it also. It's not included, this topic is not included our workshop, but I can just show you, and you can play with the parameters there and try to make some videos. Okay. Yeah, for example, remember these image were generated by a text prompt and an image prompt. So it was an image to image generation. So for example, this is a workflow. I took an image, wrote a different prompt from it, and then make a new image in image to image tool. And then I just took this one, again, changed the prompt. Okay, and use different control net preprocessors. For example, in this one, I used Canny model, and my control weight was 1, starting and ending 0 and 1. In that one, I used a preprocessor of Deep Lyris, again with control weight of 1. Here, I use normal map and preprocessor of normal. And again, my control weights are always 1 here, but you can see all the preprocessors resulted with different outputs. And here I use line art preprocessor. So you can see my shape, the composition and volume of the building stays same, but in detail there are small changes. So yeah, control net is really a rendering tool. You can do that. And yeah, also this image. Here I tried to change my ending control step, because I didn't like the shape of that building, but I like the general mass. I like this entrance, but I didn't like that these how can I say, this intersection of these two different shapes. It was meaningless. So I just wanted to try to use a lower ending step than 1. And yeah, this, even if I'm using control net, it's changed the volume and shape here like that. So you can try to use different ending control steps, or you can even try to change the control weights if you don't want the control net to stick that base image. But usually the point of using control net is taking an image and just change the materials, the colors, like using it like a rendering tool. This is an image that I have generated in Midjourney, this one, and I just wanted to try it with this coral reef thing. I was curious about it. And here with 20 steps and Euler A and CFG scale of 7, and I processed it with depth map, depth Midas, and with control weight of 1. And I didn't like the results because it was not photorealistic. There was no detail on the surfaces. It looked very raw, okay, like a raw model. So again, I try it, but this time I add my prompt, parametric architecture, hyper-realistic parametric textures, ultra-realistic, and use the same steps, same sampler, and same CFG scale, and same control net parameters. Now it looks a little bit better because I can see some textures on it, but still, I think it doesn't look good. This base image is still better. And now I again change my prompt because I couldn't see any coral reef textures there. So I said made of coral reef textures, and I just emphasized the coral reef, same sampler and same steps, but this time also I changed my preprocessor like soft edge in control nets. And okay, this time I like the result. I like that I don't know, these textures, these patterns, 3D patterns on the surfaces. So every preprocessor and every prompt, of course, generates different results. Yeah, and another workflow of stable diffusion and control nets. I started with that image. No, I didn't start with the image. I started with the prompt, and the output was that. And I think it had a potential. So I go on with it, and finally I generated these 5 images. Yeah, I begin with text to image and set an architectural photography of a beautiful biomorphic building facade designed by Hans Arp and Frank Gehry, made from coral leaf. Now this time I really emphasize this, and glass, but there is no glass, as you can see. It didn't do that. Parametric architecture, wall architectural elevation, ultra-realistic, hyper-realistic textures, trending on Arc-Daily Design and Design Boom. And again, as always, stable diffusion does, it gave me a cropped image of a building. I used hewn and CFG scales of 12. I tried to rerun these prompts with different steps, with different samplers and CFG scales, and this was the one I like. But of course, I didn't like that the building was cropped, but I really like that this organic shape. So I took it as a base image, and in image to image, and of course by using control nets, I try to find something different. Here you see, for example, I try another sampler, which is a little bit more solid, gives more detail, and now I really like the textures on the surface this time, but of course I didn't like this creepy gaps here. Again, I didn't like it is cropped. remember that also yesterday we make some in painting for that building. But also I made an out painting in Dolly for that building, saying that architectural photography of a beautiful contemporary art museum in New York City. And this result was not bad, but of course, here are some problems in the images. So I took this out painted image again, to image and control net. For example, I tried it in OpenAI, but using the model Stable Diffusion 1.5. Here is my parameters that I use, and in control net I used it with line art with strength 1 and upscale it. And also here now in Stable Diffusion Automatic 1111, I try it with another preprocessor like Canny. Here is my prompt, you can see, and it generates this. And again, I upscaled it in Stable Diffusion. I think we are coming to challenge 5, to our final project. So let's stop here and check if you have any questions.
I have a question about this. How I can access for control net? I have tried and on this Dream or Open Art, and I can't find anything. But I find a website, but it's giving me an error.
So are you asking to have access to control net in online platforms or automatic 1111?
Yes, online.
Online platforms. The only way you can access is let me share my screen. By the way, the progress is completed in Stable Diffusion. I'm curious what it generated. Also, let's check it. It says the process is completed. So let's come to Stable Diffusion B. We're in text to image, right? Okay. So this is exactly the same prompt, exactly the same parameters, but I have only changed the sampling method from ALR-A to Heon, and look at that result, right? It has nothing to do with the other one. So these parameters are so important in Stable Diffusion, even maybe more than the prompt. Of course, you need a good prompt. Without a good prompt, you cannot generate, you cannot wait a good result, but also these parameters are really important. So yeah, answer to Hassan's question. Open Art AI Create. Okay. So here on the Create section, you will see control net, right? Did you see that? So you can upload your image and then, for example, let's upload an image there. Just anything, for example, like this. Yeah. Let's say a mesmerizing interior of tall and vast gallery. Now let's again put it here. Here you see you have control net. Here you can select the mode, I mean the preprocessor. Here you have can adapt line art, anime, scribble, and open post. For example, you don't have the other preprocessor that you have in Automatic 1111, but Canny, line art, and depth, these three works really good for architectural purposes. So I think it's not so important. Yeah, so resize mode, generation of let's say 10. Let's do it this. Let's do it 35. Let's use DPM solver. A tall and bust gallery. There's the resolution and aspect ratio. 1 DPM solver. Blah blah blah. Anyway, just hit create variations. Okay. Hassan, does it solve your problem? No, can you find? I think you can find now.
Yeah, I found it, but what was confusing me that this all options wasn't available.
Yeah,
The parameters.
Yeah, they're not. Remember I told you in the beginning that the best way is to use Stable Diffusion locally on your computer by installing Automatic 1111, because you can have access to all the parameters. So it didn't do anything, right? Because I didn't say anything. I just say interior of a tall and bust gallery. So this was gallery of interior.
But there is some changes, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there are sure small changes, but as I didn't specify my prompt well, it just does small changes. Maybe we could say made from brick, something like that. It will change the materials of these. Okay, so you don't have all.
This is good. That's what I was looking for. Like, take the same image and add up the prompt, different material, and I will get a different result, but with the same perspective.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you can do it in Stable Diffusion, but of course on open platforms you don't have access to all these control parameters. Okay. Maybe lastly also I can mention you a platform called Lux AI. It's this lux.ai. This is really made for especially architectural purposes. I think this is the advantage of the platform. If you sign up, I think it will give you free credits of 200, something like that. And here you have start creations part here. And it has two modes, like render mode and explore mode. Explore mode is nothing very special because it's like Stable Diffusion. Here you can select the model. Here you can select the style settings. Here you can write your prompt. Here you have a place to write negative prompt. You can upload a reference image here, and you can choose the number of output creations. And in this more settings, you can adjust sampling step, just like in Stable Diffusion and CFG scale. And here you have sampling methods, but just you have two, Euler A and DPM, Carras. So in this explore mode, I think nothing special because it's like Stable Diffusion. Even Stable Diffusion has more settings and parameters, but these render modes is really something handy. I think I liked it because you can, for example, select this scene. Like, for example, you can select your design fields. I select architecture, and you can select your image, input image type. Is it a conceptual massing, linear? Is it conceptual massing with light and shadow, or is it detailed model? So just you can take an image of your model, SketchUp model or Rhino model, it doesn't important. It can be this basic, for example, select this one, okay. And then you can select your render type. Do you want something precisely to your reference image, or no, partially change the lines of the base image to play AI creativity? You can do that, or can select customize like base image similarity or style image similarity. For example, you can do like that. And you can choose output effect as rendering style or physical model style. I think this is also great. Here you can write your prompt. Here you can upload your base image, and also more, giving you more control. You can here upload a style reference image, okay? So, but for optimal results, ensure that the perspective and object size of the reference image are similar to the base image. So you can do that, and in more settings, you have seed and number of creations, and that's all. Let me show you some examples. For example, from Creation Plaza. Let's check. I recommend you to sign up to Lux AI because also it's giving free credits. For example, I really like that one. Look at that one. It's really I don't know, a good conceptual handcrafted model. So if you want to build that physical model, it will take you really hours, you know, because you'll have to maybe 3D print it, so you need to prepare it, and it would cost you really hours and hours. And here you can see this guy created this image from this base image. So let's do that and see, okay, this was the base image. So you can notice that it completely follows the lines of this, even that line here, right? But turns it to a completely different thing, to a building. So this guy used that base image as a scene, used conceptual massing, and render mode was creative, and output effect selected as physical model style. Here is the prompt, like modern public buildings, city center, squares, urban landscape, cars, people, streets, membrane structure, like this. Put this base image, and this was the result. And also I can show you one of my that I tried something, you know, in Simpsons, if you watch series Simpsons, cartoon series. There was a there was an episode that they invite Frank Gehry to him to design a community center in Springfield, and he was like that, just taking a piece of paper and just making something like that and throwing the paper, and then poof, the project was ready. So I tried something like it as a concept. All the outputs were not very good, but some of them are good, but I cannot find them. Why? Yeah, this one's. For example, this one. Let me show you. Yeah, maybe the result is not that good. Maybe you said that you didn't like the style of the building, blah blah blah. It doesn't important. The important thing in 3 steps that I can generate this. So just took me less than 5 minutes. I just made this conceptual model, say, if you like, yeah, because it's a model from paper in just seconds. Then I put it on the table and shoot the photograph, and again it just took seconds. I just upload it here, write a prompt, choose my parameters and hit generate, and this was the result. So like it or not, but I think that this is something great. Can you imagine making this model, for example, in Rhino or 3D Max, and also then rendering by hours, leaving computers to take the render in hours and hours, and then post-processing. So just in seconds, AI can do this. For example, I here select the render mode as creative. I didn't want it to be precise because, of course, it was not a model that I created by designing, thinking. It was just a random model. So that's why I select the creative render mode. I select for the input scene as conceptual messing with light and shadow. So you don't always need to use 3D models. Also, you can use, you can photograph your models like that. It can understand it. This museum building is a modern and contemporary masterpiece designed by Sana. It stands tall in the New York City center with its sleek lines and minimal design, people walking downtown. This was my prompt. This building is not much Sana, but it's okay. This was the base image. I didn't use any style reference image. Okay, so also there are such kind of tools. These are other creations, but for example, I didn't like this one's entrance. Was a little bit, I think, creepy. It's not photorealistic. I think maybe this was the best one of this. Also, I tried other ones with different parameters, but really I didn't like them. For example, I didn't like here this relationship of the building with the surroundings. I didn't like the light inside because it is daylight outside, and these lights seems interior lights too artificial, blah blah blah. I tried lots of times, but the one I showed you, I think, was the best one. So this was just an experiment what it does. Today I tried quickly, But if you use some more elaborate models or images, you can make, for example, this one. I like this one. This is really a rendering, I think, because the user selected the precise render mode and uploaded a detailed model, and as a prompt nearly didn't write anything. This is just a default prompt, like modern, public building, city center, square, urban landscape, car, people, streets, reality. The user just wrote this to prompt. He used it like rendering, but used this is a base image. So you can see here. Probably this is taken from SketchUp, and use this as a style reference, and bam. Okay. You made a render. And if you think also how long it takes to render trees, so we usually don't put trees on our models and just add them in Photoshop. Here you don't have, you can have everything in your detailed model and it just renders it for you, and that's all. Okay, guys, do you have any questions? Which environment do you consider more efficient for teaching architecture to artificial intelligence? Actually, to teach artificial with images and text and final. For example, to learn what kind of should be used in architecture. So I want that space. For instance, in the last time I could show me an Egyptian one. Yeah, I think Agil, here you have a couple of questions, right? What should be used exactly? You know what? No, don't be sorry. You know what? This is an good point that, yeah, if you want Iranian architecture, Persian architecture, but it can show you an Egyptian one. It can be because the artificial intelligence doesn't have consciousness like us. It doesn't know anything about Iranian architecture. It just can produce tasks of creating an Iranian architecture image because of the data we have on the internet, a vast amount of data. So it can do it such times. It can fail on such tasks sometimes. So the solution of such problems is training a model, for example, for a single task. If you want AI, a model to give you some solutions by using Iranian architecture influences, you can train your model with Iranian architecture. Like, for example, here also on this Lux model, you can train models here, right? It's not something that relates to our workshop, but there are lots of platforms that you can train models like LoRa, like this Lux. You can find lots of YouTube videos for training models, LoRa models. It's not that hard, but of course it has a good evaluation systems. It needs a good evaluation system, and it needs a good amount of qualified data that the style you want it to produce. You can do such kind of things, but yeah, the AI and these models can do such kind of things. So they are not so accurate, okay, of creating. In some tasks they can fail, of course. So that is why you can the first thing you can do is to try to solve that problem in that model by using different kind of strategies that are embedded in that model. Like in Midjourney, for example, you have weights and you have stylization values, and you can try to edit and change your prompts, and you can try, of course, to re-roll a couple of times, because sometimes it can fail and sometimes it can succeed, such kind of things. And second, the second solution is train your own model, of course. I don't know if it was an answer to your question, but it's like that. Do you have any more questions, guys? Because is keyword, for example, training models is keyword, for example. What do you mean? I didn't understand what did you mean by the question? Yeah. You can, you know, there is a guy called, I'm writing here, Olivio Saricas on YouTube. Don't Google, just go to YouTube. Find that guy on YouTube. Okay, Olivio Saricas. He's a funny guy also. I like to watch his videos sometimes just for fun. I love that guy. Also, I think I sent you a YouTube video of this guy that's explaining how to download and set up automatic 1111 on Windows. This guy does such things about AI. He has some short videos. For the basics, you can start with that guy's videos, and then you'll find a deeper, of course, deeper and more advanced sources for training, if you are interested in training models. Okay, guys, today tutorial session was really long. I think we have 1 hour left, but it's okay, because we will talk about your last challenges, your creations, and then you are going to be free for your final projects. There is one more question. Is there any way to use a reference photo for SD control net to train it? Is there any way to use a reference photo for SD and control net to train it in order to make the generated photo similar to? No, you don't need to train it. So if you use a reference photo in SD and control net, it already generates an image similar to the reference photo in terms of material and rendering features, everything. If you want, you can change them. If you want, you can keep the same. So also, I mean, you are asking about if you also, you know, here you can anyway, maybe I think you are asking if you can use raw model images here. Of course, again, it's quite more or less same like I showed you in Lux AI, and also that Lux AI uses ControlNet to do that. Okay, because ControlNet understands the depth, it can understand the lines. Let me again show you. Let's open Stable Diffusion interface. Can we create short videos using Stable Diffusion? Yeah, you can, but not in Automatic 11.11. There is a version of Stable Diffusion called DForum Stable Diffusion. And here, Yasemen, I also will explain your question, but I shortly give an answer this because making videos is not included in our workshop, but just I want to show you. There is a link like Collab Research. Let me copy paste it. Here, you have the forum Stable Diffusion. Okay, now you have the setup. First, you need to connect the that if you I don't know if you used any Collab netbook, but if you used one, first you need to connect here. Then you should clicking that NVIDIA GPT, click model and output. You can select here, you set up environment and Python definitions, and here you can select the model. Here they have only I think no, they have yes, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, and 1, 4 checkpoints. If you want a custom checkpoint, you should download it. And here you have animation settings, okay, like frames, like zoom type, like angles and rotations, and coherence. There is. You can also upload video inputs, or you can make interpolations, and there are lots of parameters also here about video, and they're too much to cover now. Here you have prompts and animation prompts. You can choose how many prompts you want to input, like from 0 to 40, or from 0 to 100, from 0 to 1000. Of course, to have 1000 prompts, I think it's theoretically possible, but practically I think it's impossible to diffuse all that prompts. But you can do it here. Again, you have some you'll see some sampling settings, you know, from Stable Diffusion, of course, like sampler step scale and such kind of things. There are lots of settings and parameters here. And when you are finished, don't forget, of course, to disconnect when finished. Again, you can search in YouTube for T-Forum Stable Diffusion. Also, I think maybe Olivio Saricas, maybe he has some short tutorials for T-Forum Stable Diffusion. They are not detailed tutorials, but at least he shows simply how you can use the forum Stable Diffusion, and then you can learn by trying yourself. And yeah, Seman's question, yeah. Okay, so let me open my Stable Diffusion. And okay, let's find an architectural image to drop here, to drop ControlNet. Where there's an image to image. Where is our ControlNet? Okay, here. So, for example, I'll upload here a photograph of Sana building, a museum building. Now, remember I told you to click Allow Preview, Pixel Perfect, Low RAM, and Enable. If you don't click Enable, the control net doesn't work. And if you don't click allow preview, you cannot see the preprocessors effect, which is very, very handy to see. Like, for example, if I use that and click that explosion button, I can see the preprocessor preview like that. So you know what? It doesn't matter if it's a real photograph of a real building or it's a render. Okay, just because this preprocessor uses depth map, okay, to regenerate this. Or this, for example, let's try line art preprocessor. Okay, and also it now uses lines to understand. It doesn't matter if it is a sketch, if it's a model, if it's a real photograph. Yasemin, is this answer your question? Or for example, let's check Kenny model again.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I mean the exact thing that look it's done. For example, we give it a picture of a raw model, and then we can have
Yes.
a rendered picture.
Yeah.
I mean that if I have a raw model, can I give it to, okay.
Yeah, okay, I'm explaining the exact things. So look here, I have this detailed photograph, but what Kenny preprocessor does is just to find it lines. So if it was a raw model, it would be the same. So let's do it with the same raw model that I used in Lux, because also that Lux uses the control nets, right? So let's do it, right? For example, you can use depth map, you can use or open normal map, for example. So yeah, if I write a prompt here, like I did in Lux, it will do the same job. Okay, so yeah, you can upload a raw model and without changing any of the form, you can add materials and details. And here you can, for example, say that control is more important. But even you say balanced, even if you use it in balanced control net, when you say control net weight is 1 and starting control step is 0 and ending control step is 1, it will generate this form, but with different materials. It will render it. So it's same with the looks. Okay. Yeah, we have less than 1 hour left. If you have questions, more questions, I think answer 1 or 2 questions more. Then maybe give a small break this time, 5 minutes. Okay, let's wait and those counterpart of looks. Yeah, it is. Xcool is working with looks. Yeah, it's their part of it. They are a research team working for looks. So there is no other website of Xcool. Yes, they are. And we just challenge 5 left. And sure, of course, there are lots of AI communities, AI platforms on internet. So if you are interested in using Stable Diffusion and ControlNet professionally, and if also you are interested in training models, I recommend you to have a membership on GitHub and also Hugging Face. Their communities, they are dedicated to AI and deep learning, such kind of things. You can find lots of models there. Yeah, let me stop sharing my screen. Why? My video is turned on, but I can't see myself. I don't know why. Let's stop video and okay, now I see. Maybe it's because of Stable Diffusion. So I think we are done with the tutorials. I try to cover all of the things in a limited time. I hope it was good for all of you, and I know it was too much in a short time, but the important thing is just to, I think, begin, make a beginning, and then by using and exploring, you'll learn more. Okay, guys, if you don't have any questions, we can have a 5 minutes break and then go on working and making evaluations on our projects on Discord channel and Zoom. So, okay, I'm ending YouTube live streaming now. We are not going, I think we are not going to go live again because we are done with the tutorials. And later also we can talk about tomorrow's schedule. Okay, let's have 5 minutes break and be here in 5 minutes.